Greetings, Nashville. He is Blaine Bishop. I am Brad Hopkins, and we are brought to you by all Four Seasons Garage Doors. You've got us till 3 o'clock, and we've got tons to talk about. Vanderbilt awaits the winner of Tennessee, Mississippi State tomorrow after both teams win yesterday. You know there's going to be some fireworks, and we've been talking about it from day one almost, about Vanderbilt's, I'm not going to say meteoric rise as of lately, but they took that dirt road whooping against Kentucky, and they have kind of really gotten refocused. Tyrese Halliburton went down in the third quarter yesterday, and the Pacers, they also go down in convincing fashion in Game 2 of the NBA Eastern Conference Finals. You know, the Celtics never really let them get in the game, basically. In the NCAA, and of course the Power Five, they've approved universities' ability to pay players. I know that you've been listening to Buck and Lucas waxing on that poetically, and I'm sure the morning show, Ramona, Kayla, and Will have done some of the same thing, and we'll give our reaction to that as much as to even have a guest on, Dan Lust. He's a sports attorney. You can hear him across Fox Sports, CBS Sports, factions like that. He'll kind of educate us a little bit about where we are on that situation, maybe even how we got there. And in hour number 2, John Glennon swings by to give us his updates on the OTAs coming to a conclusion, the rookies and the veterans melding together for the first time, what these guys look like, what the pace is like. You know, from his perspective, he'll be bringing that to us right here. So, but first, let me welcome in my former teammate, my former roommate, my main man, Blaine
Busta
Bishop.
Rhymes. That was what Busta Rhymes. That was B-Hop's request there. That wasn't too bad, man. You know, I'm not a big music guy, but that got me,
you got the hype. You got hype when you were going down the hall and I was playing.
Like,
you did.
Okay.
You got hype.
I got you. But OTAs, man. I can remember like it was yesterday when the OTAs were finished my rookie year, and I felt like, I got a lot of work to do. And I'm wondering if they think the same way. Certain people, and when you're a rookie, especially the rookies, because then you get to see the vets and how they work, whether you're starting like yourself or I'm way on the depth chart, it doesn't matter. You know, opportunity going to present itself, you better be ready. So, and even all rookies, even if you're a high draft pick, you know, you got a lot of work to do. I'm sure J.C. Latham has a lot of work to do to solidify that he is who he wants to be. Being the first round pick, just like yourself there, Biggity B. So, man, I went home and was like digesting it, and about after 3 days, I figured out, okay, this is what I need to do to be better, because I got caught up in the minutia of lifting weights all the time, and I want to be bigger, stronger. That's what you think when you think, coming from college to pro, that's what you need. Well, I realized I was already strong enough, but I wasn't quick enough. I wasn't agile enough. I wasn't flexible enough, being at a defensive back.
Did somebody teach you that, or did you ask that question of yourself? Like, did somebody? How did that happen?
I have always been an honest assessor of myself. Okay. And never put myself ahead of somebody or below, but always thinking about what I need to do to improve, to be successful. It's like, mastering how to survive. If you're left in the jungle, okay, what are you going to do to survive? So this is how I felt when I came back. How can I make this team? Being a last round pick, and I'm going to have to open some eyes. So then I realized, okay, I'm going to be moving to another position, so I got to be all up in the playbook. There's adjustments to that 46 defense that I had never even, and I was corner, so it was like, you get that cat. So I went from you get that cat to knowing all these freaking adjustments. So, I studied the playbook, and I went and started taking yoga, something I had never done before, because I had no resources to tell me or go to and say, hey, do this. All right, I'm going to do yoga. Maybe that'll help me. It also helped me in my concentration. So I'm wondering how players today, do they assess themselves? It is hard, by the way, what you just asked me about that. Some players don't ever do it their entire career. You could play a long time and never do that because you know you're going to rise to the occasion, and then you're just going to work itself out. Because that's kind of when the super talented guys, that's kind of what happens, right? But then sometimes it doesn't happen, and then you wonder why. And Titans had some guys like that. They were first-round picks that they just didn't rise to the occasion, or their body. They were elite athletes, but for whatever reason, they didn't become the player their athleticism said they should be.
But there's always a take on what you do nowadays.
Yeah.
Back when you and I were coming up, there wasn't near this social media presence. There wasn't the involvement of people outside of the building that really resonated with a bunch of people at the same time.
But I'm in the backdrop. I'm going to say this real quick. I'm in the backdrop because I'm that last round pick. So nobody's really paying attention to me. I wasn't like you in the forefront being a first rounder where every article was paying attention to every move you did or did not make. See?
You're a little bit of a Jaquan Jackson, 6th round pick, with a guy that has some wiggle in the special teams game. Might be a field
nobody
position
was paying
kind of guy.
attention.
Nobody's paying attention to it.
Right.
I get it. But what I was saying was, matter of fact, you made me forget what I was saying.
Oh,
because you went
I'm
on
sorry.
It's all right.
Sorry.
Either way, the question I would have for you is who has to be a rookie other than J.C. Latham, to really step up and give this team a shot.
Cedric Gray, middle linebacker.
Cedric, the 4th round pick, Cedric Gray,
because they drafted him to eventually be the starter. At some point. Don't know when it'll happen. Watch this. Who eventually became the starter our rookie year? They played middle linebacker. Oh.
Michael Barrow. Yep, 2nd round
we
pick.
had a Pro Bowler already there in Al Smith. Right.
Yeah.
So eventually he fit the scheme and system. The way that we had to run those AFCs, you had to memorize the whole freaking playbook every week, which was insane. And I have to admit, I was not that guy that could do that quickly going in the game. So I stand right next to them. And then I run to my spot.
Yeah.
And a couple games, and then I finally figured it out in game because it was a lot faster in the play calling where we had what they call AFC sheets, and you had to adjust based off of formation and know, even if they motioned, what we would go to. Nothing like today where, just stay back, cover 2, they motion over, we just adjust real easy. So those things happen really fast in games, and I'm sure things happen like that for you. Like, line movements, stunts, trade-offs, to player, to D-tackle, to end. I mean, man, it's a lot different in the pros and college no matter what kind of success you've had in college. It's a different game. It's a different speed, and you have to make the adjustment. If you don't, you're going to get left behind. I promise you. I don't care what round you win.
Yeah, I think technology allows these dudes to adjust a lot faster than we did.
What technology?
Technology, I mean, you got iPads that get to watch every single play that you've done almost instantaneously versus the fax machines images of what you're seeing during the field. I think maybe even the way we cover the game itself during practice.
But that's usually after game or after practice who's watching film. I mean, I'm trying to figure out that when the season starts, absolutely. But when your rookie year, like, I don't know if technology is impacting that as much as
the way we learn nowadays seems to be more efficient. Maybe we get more out of it somehow. But these guys seem to be more students of the game, is what I'm saying.
I can't say everyone is.
Well, of course,
they're force fed, but
your
I don't know
study
if they will
habits
be.
determine that. I mean, how well you how you want to prepare yourself. Like you are in a different situation than some. You actually were a player that, like you said, no one was paying attention to. You are a last pick of our draft.
But you have to study to be successful.
Hold on a second. So the difference is like between a guy like myself, where they invested in me. They invested in me first round money. So they're going to make sure they at least got that out of them before they decided to go ahead and move on from me. If they decided to move on from you during training camp, it wouldn't have been a big deal. But for them to release me,
$20,000.
Right, for them to release me, that would have cost them a few millions. You see what I'm saying? That would have been different.
Right.
So there comes a different expectation. J.C. Latham has a different expectation on him than say, just who I just mentioned, Jaquan Jackson.
Right.
You know?
Or
even
the
in
last pick, Jay Harrell from Michigan. That's kind of the situation I was in.
Well, we had 2 last picks. James Williams was a 7th rounder as well. But the point I'm trying to make is that they're going through different situations. But, look at what happened to you. I mean, who's to say that one of these later round picks that we're talking about right now can't all of a sudden, through whatever situation or circumstance, be a dude that's put on the field, makes some plays, and shows the staff that they can trust him.
I believe
you go on to be a Pro Bowler.
I believe Williams can be that guy. Now, it may not happen this year because he's changed the position, but it could really turn upside down this entire draft class if at some point he becomes a starting linebacker, converted safety from the U. If that happens, because this dude's got some pop to him, he's fast. If Frank Bush can teach him how to read things, naturally he's going to be a special teamer early on, but you never know when you get that opportunity. Somebody get nicked up and boom, there you are.
Yeah, it's a good thing Denard Wilson is also a safety by trade. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
So
he speaks to that
it
language.
can really turn this thing into from a B to an A real quick. Well, we naturally know the first two guys got to do some things.
Yeah. So we did tease about the NCAA, about its ruling with the Power Five conferences, basically approving universities' ability to pay players. What was some of the numbers, JB? Did you say, what, $20 million per school in the Power Five?
$20
I believe
million.
each school will get about $20 million to allocate to all of their sports, not just like one or the other.
So there's a lot of questions to track, how we got here in college football, what the implications are, and we're going to catch up to Dan Lust, like we just mentioned earlier. You can hear him on Fox Sports. You can hear him on CBS Sports. He's going to join us right here next on 104.5 The Zone. That's Blaine Bishop. I'm Brad Hopkins. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Our Four Seasons. This summer, NASCAR is back at Nashville Superspeedway June 28th through the 30th for Ally 400 race weekend. That's right, guitars and fast cars right here in Music City. From the campgrounds to the track, and you won't want to miss the excitement. This is the fourth year for Ally has been entitled sponsor of the Ally 400. And the first Ally 400 was in 2021 and was the first NASCAR Cup Series race at Nashville Superspeedway since 1984. So be there this year and be part of history in the making. In the previous 4 years or so, Allies 400s, they have been three different winners. You need to come to see who's going to come through the checkered flag this year. And in true fashion, Music City will have the Ally 400 with a pre-race concert with a soon-to-be-determined artist. Maybe me. Who knows? More details to come. So get your tickets now to watch your favorite drivers to take on the 1.33 miles of concrete chaos. Visit NashvilleSportsSpeedway.com. Yes, that's NashvilleSportsSpeedway.com to lock in your spot at the Rackley Roofing 200, the Tennessee Lottery 250, and the Ally 400 right now today.
Go ahead.
I'm scared now.
Yeah, don't do that. That's Blaine Bishop.
Well, I'm about to practice, because I may be at the,
Oh, that's right. You're going to be at the what? What was the race?
Ally 400.
The Ally 400 doing just you.
I may be, it would be more than just me there.
Catch Blaine Bishop at the Ally 400 doing his best Michael Jackson impression.
Nothing.
Ow. Oh. Okay, you're good. Don't do it anymore. I'm Brad.
I don't know what the music is at because I don't have my headphones on. But
I don't remember what that song is called, but that was Off the Wall, I think.
That was Don't Stop Till You Get Enough.
From the Off the Wall album, right? From Michael Jackson.
That's right.
Yeah, when he was brown.
It was off the wall. That means he threw it against the wall.
I don't know what off the wall he's talking about, but just maybe him being off the wall. Hey, listen, Stephen, yeah, he was too. Stephen Jones on the F&M Bank chat, he said, would really be interested in knowing if Blaine and Brad think, is $20 million a school too much, not enough, or good starting point? And that's when we bring in our man, Dan Lust.
Yeah, Bananas can do that one too.
Yeah, hold on a second. Bananas, he can give us his thoughts too. But we're going to pose that question to our next guest, Dan Lust. You can hear him on Fox Sports. You can hear him on CBS Sports. He is a sports attorney, and he joins us now to educate us on the situation that we find between the NCAA, student athletes, and the Power 5 conferences. Dan, welcome in. You're on with Blaine and Brett. How are you, sir?
Good to be on.
Hey, listen, so we just had on our F&M Bank chat line a way that our consumers can actually get to Blaine and I. Asked the question, Stephen Jones did, would really be interested in knowing what our perspective was, Blaine and myself, about the $20 million a school. Is it too much, not enough, or a good starting point? What do you think?
It's the perspective. If you tell me it's a Power 5 school, yeah, $20 million. I don't know, some of these deals, television deals that are being signed are in the hundreds of millions of dollars. So you could make the argument both ways. I think we're, and I represent some large schools, I represent some small schools. I think it's going to be much tougher for a smaller school to swallow a pill of like $5-6 million when they're, potentially a mid-major school that's not making a Cinderella run in the tournament and maybe don't even have a football program. So it depends, right? I think 20 sounds in the vicinity, but then again, athletes are getting in this settlement close to $3 billion. So people on the other end might be saying, but that's too much money. So, it just really depends on your perspective there.
Do you remember back in the day, and I say the day, I think it was maybe in the mid-teens, if not the later 2000 teens, where those Northwestern kids got together and tried to either sue the university or maybe it was the NCAA themselves. Were they more forward-thinking than we actually gave them credit for back in the day?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think people tried to give them credit, but they just approached this, and the NLRB decision at the National Labor Relations Board essentially said Northwestern has a point, they are right, but creating a union would really disrupt the entire college model. So that was in the vicinity of like 2015, right around there.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about it today, but Dartmouth basketball and USC football have different cases going on at the NLRB levels to try to get recognized as a union. And it's the same argument that Northwestern brought up 10 years ago, except, getting athletes paid isn't so against the grain when it comes to, the landscape. Kids are getting paid through NIL. Is it that different to revenue share and get paid by the school? I mean, it's different. It's not completely unheard of for athletes to get paid. So, yeah, I think the Northwestern kids were definitely forward-looking, and I think the laws helped kind of get us closer to today.
Those egghead athletes. Dan Lust from Fox Sports and CBS Sports, he joins us now.
Well, Dan, I guess the term amateurism and student athlete kind of gone out the window. You tell me.
I mean, I don't know. People hate the term student athlete. I mean, now it's going to mean something totally different, right? The only students on campus that are revenue sharing with the schools are the athletes. So I've never been one that's hated the term student athlete. I know some people are up in arms about it, but yeah, amateurism is certainly dead. And the main difference between NIL and revenue sharing is that the kids, in theory, in revenue sharing, the kid at the end of the bench will get some money in his pocket, right? That's the same concept of, pro basketball, baseball, football, minimum contracts. Like there is a guy at the end of the bench that is getting money, whereas in the current college landscape, the guy that doesn't play, the third string punter, is probably not getting any NIL money. There's probably no marketing deals for the third string punter. But in the same context, revenue sharing, every player on the football team should be getting money. So it's a very different concept.
We're on with Dan Luss. Dan, I'm interested to see, does this impact Title IX or does it even affect it at all? Is totally different?
You'd think it will have to, and that's, I guess I should probably carve this out before people accuse me. The settlement terms are not yet completely final, right? The settlement's not done tomorrow. There's going to be a whole process. Plaintiffs have to opt in. They're going to have to figure out the actual logistics of the revenue sharing model if they're on the payroll. That all has to be ironed out. Title IX and NIL have not been consistent with one another because these third-party collectives, these different organizations around schools, they were not officially tied to the school. So, like the alumni will make up a school. Like the alumni of University of Tennessee, they had created an LLC to pay athletes. They were not bound by Title IX. So if some collective wanted to spend 100% of its budget on football players, they could do that because they weren't bound by Title IX. But now when those payments are coming directly from the school, the schools are bound by Title IX. So we have not seen Title IX really enforce itself during the, I guess we'll call it the NIL era, but really since athletes were allowed to get paid. So that adds a whole new wrinkle that we have not yet seen to the space.
Dan, how long will this process take for us to have closure and the stamp on that this is, now the new NCAA?
Okay, so this is the little nugget I'll give you, which I've seen being reported. Not as much as I would like. This settlement is not, as much as everyone's saying amateurism's dead and all this other stuff. Yeah, and for all intents and purposes, this will change the course of the case. But the settlement itself is not really done yet.
Right.
Like at some point we'll get to a trial and whatnot. This will settle in some way, shape, or form, but it might not be today. There are lawyers in another case, another class action lawsuit in Colorado, a case called Fontenot versus NCAA, who are essentially saying, hey, cool, you guys settled house versus NCAA. We're still going to continue suing the NCAA. Like, we're good to go. You guys do your thing over here. We're going to continue to take this case to trial, and we'll hit the NCAA for more money. So there's a battle between these House lawyers and these Fontenot lawyers. And the House lawyers are trying to be able to tell the NCAA, you're good. Don't worry about these Fontenot guys. Their cases are going to get extinguished. And Fontenot's sitting here, like, we're a bunch of different plaintiffs, a bunch of different lawyers, and we don't get paid a dime under the House settlement, so why would we not keep going? So there's still some procedural hurdles to get this done. So, and everyone's doing a victory lap today, but the lawyers, devil's in the details. It's going to take, I'd say in the vicinity of months, if not a year, to get this whole logistical mess, done up. But that's a $3 billion settlement. Like, that doesn't get done overnight.
Sports attorney and New York law professor, Dan Lust.
Now, let's be real. In my opinion, Dan, the only real reason why we're even having this discussion is due to the success of college sports, particularly in football and basketball. I mean, networks have made this possible, basically. If coaches and universities weren't making hundreds of millions of dollars, creating an industry, then players wouldn't ask for anything more than a free education. So what are we talking about? We're talking about, a standard that's been set by, you can say universities, but particularly the athletic departments that are bringing in more money into these universities than any other income stream that the university can create. What do you think?
Fair. I mean, you're hearing athletes in no other sector of student life at the universities clamoring for money because of the success. So, yeah, I guess, the more success there is, the more athletes are looking to get paid. And by all means, I represent athletes that do some work on the school side. So I certainly can see it both ways. But, I think that once it reached a certain point, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but once we got to the one and done era of college basketball, it's like guys would go to college for a year and then they would turn pro. Like, amateurism has been, in theory, dead for a long time. Like, kids don't really, they try to improve their draft stock. That's the only reason kids are going to college. And now with different leagues, be it the G League or the NBL overseas, or there's different ways for kids to go to school. So these kids are resembling professionals, but the schools want to treat them as amateur athletes, which they're not. So I think just from a status standpoint, if you just ask what legally defines someone as an employee, if a school or an employer can make money off of you and they can exert a level of control over you, those are your two benchmarks. Like, if it looks like an employee, you can control their hours, their curfews, you have all these rules for them, and they're making you a tremendous amount of profit. We're very close to that employment line. So to the earlier question, that's what the Northwestern, those eggheads said years ago. And I think it's just recategorizing what these athletes have been for the better part of 20 years or so.
You know what? Expand on that thought just a little bit more, Dan Lust. What will the future relationship between college-age athletes and the NFL look like, do you think?
The past 5 years, we've seen all these different leagues pop up, like these overtime elite leagues. Some kids are going over to the NBL, and you have guys like Wembanyama will be the first pick in the NBA draft, and even the XFL and the UFL. You have so many of these startup leagues that are popping up. Like I'm not quite sure that college sports is necessary. Like overtime elite functions without kids having to go to college. So, the more that this landscape exists on shaky ground, it certainly lends itself to competitors popping up and competing against it, right? Like for, I don't know, however many years, college sports has basically been a free, minor league system for the NFL and the NBA. So, there's all these different competitors to it. So there's certainly a world where the revenue sharing model helps kill some of those competitors and drives kids to go to college instead of going overseas or overtime elite or these different leagues. I'm interested to see how that will play out. But the more kids can make at the collegiate level, I think that's going to be driving them to get some of the better talent when they're competing against the G League or overtime or any of these other leagues.
Yeah, see, now you're trying to blur the lines between professional and collegiate sports. And, I was listening to Pat McAfee earlier this morning, and he was talking about those diehards, the ones that have been generational supporters of, like even college football. When it starts to look like a minor league professional system, it might end up affecting the model, because now you're talking about students that are getting paid much like a professional because they're doing things that professionals are doing. They're bringing in also billions of dollars for a university. But now it's like, what are they faced with? Do we start rooting for the players like we do professionally, or do we start keep our alliances with the schools that we attended? The alumni, those kids that couldn't play the sport but are in the stands every single weekend supporting their university. How do you think that gets parceled out?
The short answer is a lot of this stuff's still in flux, and I'll point out the good in the settlement that I think people like clear rules. They like when everything's done above board. They like where there's some level of transparency. Part of the settlement is to get some of these deals above board. So if athletes are making X amount of money, we will know what that is. Just like we know, right, when a draft pick, first overall pick signs a deal, his signing bonus is reported, his salary is reported. I think the $100 handshake era of college sports came to an end, and then we entered the NIL era, and we thought we'd have some level of transparency. And then, we don't really know what any of these kids are making, for better or for worse. So now that those payments are moving towards coming directly from the college, some of these are public universities. Some of the you could get Freedom of Information Act requests to figure out how much money is going to the students. It's going to add a level of transparency that we have not seen in college sports economics in a very long time with respect to athletes. So I think that's probably a positive. I'm curious to see how this is policed, how the NCAA will take a role in trying to watch what payments are going to athletes. But for the last 3 years, I think people have been concerned that the richest alumni of particular schools that's been driving recruiting battles. And now that money and those compensation decisions will go pass through the schools, I think we'll have a little bit more level of transparency and can try to control, at least have some understanding of the market for athletes. So, I do sense we're getting a blurring of the lines. And I think to answer your question, this is not something we have seen in a minor league feeding system, some form of revenue sharing, right? Like it just doesn't exist. So we're all in for something new if and when the settlement is resolved. This will be something new that we have not quite seen in the sports world.
Do you know who's wringing their hands right now, Dan Lust? That'd be The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. He's like, oh, my goodness, these kids are going to start coming to me soon enough. Anyway, he's a sports attorney, and he's joining us right here, Dan Lust.
Well, Dan, with all that being said, where would you put this, number one in college sports history as far as seismic change? Or were there some other events that you know about from years ago through your law practice that maybe in 1906 or so, there was something even bigger and seismic at the time compared to this.
I think for athletes, yes, this will be one of the bigger days. I mean, you could point towards that Supreme Court case, NCAA versus Alston, which basically said that the NCAA can't restrict what you can make. And then, now we're getting to the point where schools are paying people. So, this is a really big day for athletes. The only one I'll say that is maybe on par with this decision is something that happens to schools about, it's probably 40 years ago. This is a case, NCAA versus Board of Regents, the last time that college sports had been discussed at the United States Supreme Court. And that was a decision that allowed conferences and schools to create television deals outside of the NCAA. So, I'm sure not us, but our parents and their parents, they watched like college football when there was the one national spotlight game of the week. There was one football game, and the NCAA got to decide who would be on that spotlight game. So there was no, ACC network, SEC network. There was no Fox, NBC, all these different deals. There was one game at one time. So that was the case. Board of Regents, which said that the NCAA is not allowed to tell the schools what to do when it comes to their television product. So that decision in 1983, right around there, is what really led to the birth and the boom of football, and why when you turn on college football on Saturday, it's on every network, on the channel. So, that's really what led to the earlier question. That's what led to college football and college basketball being billion-dollar business, because of the bet that was taken on television deals. In whatever order, 1A, 1B, those are probably the two biggest legal decisions we've had.
No doubt about it. One with sports attorney Dan Luss. I guess that leads me to think about, what major rules will be impacted and will be the fallout from this that we're not thinking about today, but all those in the industry and like yourself, lawyers, that maybe come about, whether it's the players, the university, or just the rules in itself, how it would be embodied for college, let's say, athletes.
Good, guys, you ready?
Yes.
I don't know the answer to, but I'm watching it. I don't quite know how they deal with it. You keep mentioning rules, and lawyers, we pay attention to rules. We pay attention to precedent. I don't quite. I mean, I guess put it this way: what's the point of having rules if there's no one there to enforce them? I mean, that's okay. Why for a period of time we called this era the Wild Wild West era, because the NCAA wasn't doing anything to kind of police some bad actors. Right now, under the antitrust laws in our country, the NCAA has to be very careful of curtailing what schools can do. There was a big decision, you guys are familiar with it, when Tennessee's Attorney General sued the NCAA for announcing this investigation for improper collective conduct. There is law from the federal courts that the NCAA is not allowed to investigate schools or punish schools for this type of activity. Somewhat of a gray area, but I'm not quite sure these rules that we are about to create, who will enforce them. Will it be a third party, as some people have talked about? Will it be the NCAA? So what people are not thinking about, yes, we have all these rules in place, but there is case law in the books that says that the NCAA can't be that person. So we're very possibly learning of a new entity that will be the enforcement mechanism that we have never seen before. So, that's among a number of questions that have not yet been decided or released to the public. That's certainly one that I'm looking at.
Lastly, for me, I just want to get your thoughts on TNT kind of getting into the ball game of college football.
Barkley and Shaq, are they going to be on the call?
Yeah, right.
I don't know, maybe, or B-Hop.
Where? More football, more sports. I'm all for it.
There you have it. Dan Luss, sports attorney.
So, and leave us with this. There's another lawsuit that's out in the NIL space. I think it's a Bay Area guys suing basically the Florida coaches and some boosters alleging fraud. Is that the kind of leverage that we're now starting to see even younger players start to have now when it comes to these relationships that coaches and collectives and these student athletes have?
For that Tennessee versus NCAA lawsuit, I think the athletes would have a lot of leverage. They would say, hey, if I go public that Billy Napier was involved in my recruiting scheme and he was telling me how much money I was going to get, right? It's all from this Jaden Rashada complaint, which a cheap plug. We covered it on our podcast, Conduct Detrimental, very recently, about a day ago. But you would basically say, hey, I'll go public, and Florida's going to get the death penalty, and you're going to get sanctioned. You're not going to be bowl eligible. But because of that Tennessee versus NCAA case, it's not really clear if the NCAA has the power to punish Florida for those recruiting violations. So, yeah, Rashada can sue Billy Napier and these various boosters for his share of $13 million. But, I'm not sure how much liability Florida as a university has. But, yeah, it certainly doesn't look good for Napier, especially if Florida's not going to bowl games or competing for a national championship. That's the wrong type of exposure.
Mm-hmm. He is Dan Lust. Dan, thank you for your time. You've been fabulous. All right.
Thanks a lot, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. Mm-hmm. Hey, Blaine and I were having a nice little discussion just about maybe pressures that some of these young guys might be feeling over at 460 Great Circle Road. If you're not familiar with that's the Tennessee Titans facility. They've been having the OTAs. They've wrapped up this week. And there's been a lot of information that's come out via players, coaches, and even our very own Coach Dan McGinnis, who joined us yesterday. And we've got a lot to unpack. Blaine has some more he wants to get into. And we'll be taking your phone calls as well at 737-1045. And reminding you, Mr. John Glennon at the 220 block will be joining us to talk about the NFL and, of course, particularly his Tennessee Titans, the team that he covers. That's Blaine Bishop. I am Brad Hopkins. We are brought to you by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. Stick around. We'll be right back. That's right.
Gah.
As you heard Blaine Bishop right there giving you the reminiscence of shot. It is that time of the week when we call our shot. 737-1045 if you want to give us your shot of the week.
Yeah, Bananas, you go first.
Bananas will be going first.
I don't want to make sure I don't mix mine with
second.
yours. I just want to make sure.
Because there's something that comes along with this, Big B.
We got some goodies?
We do have some goodies.
Ooh.
You ever heard of a group called Def Leppard?
Oh, yeah, of course.
How about a group called Journey?
Oh.
They're going to be at Nissan Stadium on July 20th, and we've got 2 tickets.
What?
Besides the ones that Blaine and I have. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going together.
Well, we are going.
Yeah, we'll probably end up going there. Anyway, you can win 2 tickets if we do select what your shot actually is. Call your shot. And JB, yes, you, like every week, will be the one to get us started on the Call Your Shot.
Ooh, I see you, Jackson.
My call your shot for this week is going to go to the SEC tournament.
Okay.
And I'm going to predict who is going to win the whole thing.
The whole thing.
Spoiler alert, I'm not picking the Vols. I think LSU is actually going to win. I think it'll be an LSU Vanderbilt championship game on Sunday. Those 2 teams that struggled in the regular season, but have found some fire underneath them. I think South Carolina is also a dark horse to get there, but I think just because of how it's set up currently, I like LSU and Vanderbilt, and I think LSU's pitching depth is just a little bit better than Vanderbilt's is. So I'm going in LSU Vanderbilt SEC championship in the SEC tournament with LSU winning the whole thing.
So that basically says that you've got, because I'm thinking that Tennessee is going to advance and play Vanderbilt again on Friday.
Yeah, me too.
So you're saying that Vandy beats Tennessee again.
Vandy's hot right now. And as much as it disappoints me to say that, I think Vandy's got the advantage.
So do we thank Kentucky for that or not? Anyway, we'll talk about that in just a minute. You want to go next, Big B?
Yeah, well, I'm a girl. First of all, Tennessee is going to beat Mississippi State, and then they're going to play Vandy, and they're going to beat them. Yeah.
And they're going to beat Vandy?
Uh-huh.
So knocking them out. So basically making Bananas' shout out just not even going to be happening.
Yeah, my main shot is LSU, but I think Vanderbilt will also be there.
Yeah. I think as much as I thought Vandy was going to win the last time, I think Tennessee is going to get there. They got to get by Mississippi State, so let's not hold the horses. I think they're going to get past them. So it'll be interesting. But my real shot, though. My real shot.
You mean your shot B?
Yeah, we getting rid of those first base, 2 first base.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Here we go.
We got to get rid of. I talked to all my baseball professionals.
All of them.
All thousands of them. And they all said, that is BS. They text me during the show during that time and talk about whoever said put that thing there don't know baseball. He said, I'm serious now. And that was a whole bunch of people, too.
We had an example of that yesterday in the
they
game.
was talking about turning to go to second, which you do all the time. So where do you put your feet do you put it on the outside one or do you put it on the one? He said because most people have their foot slit up against it, not their foot on the bag when you're on first base. So that's to be not even part of that.
That didn't happen yesterday.
I know.
That didn't happen yesterday in the A&M game.
I said most of the time, it was just like when you run down the thing. You always run straight, right? Well, no, you don't. You turn the corner sometimes, too. So most
the only time you turn the corner is if you're if you're not running the base pattern with an arc from the very beginning, that means that you have a shot that you just put out in the field.
Exactly.
Now, if you have to then all of a sudden turn once you run through the bag, that means that was an errant throw that got by first. Because you weren't planning on making the turn.
Or they dropped it.
Either way, it was a mistake that you cannot determine. You can't determine whether or not this kid's going to drop. It's going to get thrown over his head.
This is my shot. I don't like that bag. Get that bag out of here. Get that thing out of here.
Yeah, you're going to see more of it.
Get out.
You're going to end up seeing.
That's the only thing I probably can kick in.
The thing is, I have to shift my shot. I got to shift my shot because you guys are all over the SEC
baseball?
tournament. Yeah, because I actually
that's why I let Bananas
because I was thinking that spanking that Corbin's boys took at the hands of Kentucky that made them get themselves right for Game 3 and then come out and just put the fist and the double smack down on them.
Did they?
They've been doing that ever since.
Top rope?
So it was something that, and we were talking about this before the show started, you and I were. about how motivation can come from Tim Corbin, whether it comes from, spitting and howling in your face, or if it's more cerebral, like, the arm over your shoulder and say, hey, look, what are we not doing right? That kind of deal, and see if we can't fix it. But either way, something was said that resonated with those dudes. And maybe it is just like we talked about, heard quotes from him earlier. It's just like almost like taking one day at a time, not forgetting who you are. This is a team that has legacy. This is a team that has championships. And despite how the regular season has gone for them, they don't want, or at least Tim doesn't want them to forget their identity. And that's probably what they've tapped into, having been in this situation down in Hoover tons of times, where they're the team, maybe even the one expected to beat, the one with the crosshair on your back.
After all that serious talk, that was great. Tim Corbin now, this is what he said. I am now the all-time winningest coach in the SEC tournament history with 47 wins and 3 natties. So y'all better get y'all crap together.
Talk about it. Hey, let's go to Buffalo and Mount Juliet real quick before we go to the break. He wants to call his shot. Buffalo?
I'm going with Nashville SC against the Montreal. We beat Montreal just a few weeks ago. Yep. Beat them pretty good. We're on the road. We're going to go to Canada. Nashville SC 3-2. They're the winners.
Nice. I like it, Buffalo. Appreciate you in the SC, in the Nashville SC reference there. That's pretty cool. And they must be doing some things despite having moved on from their head coach.
I know.
Sometimes that can be inspiring.
Yeah, Gary.
You and I did that. We did that. Our head coach got fired week 10 of our season. And
rookie year.
Yeah.
I was like,
so I'm just saying that we had to deal with the fact that there's a coaching change mid-season. Anyway, at the 2:20 break, we're going to be talking to John Glennon, talking about the Titans and the NFL. And, of course, anything else that you guys would like to get into, we'll take your phone calls on the other side at 737-1045. Hey, we are brought to you by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. That's Blaine Bishop. I'm Brett Hopkins. This is 1045 The Zone.
Have you noticed how unreliable things have become these days? Like when someone tells you it'll be ready at 4 p.m. and it's not. People are really tired of that stuff. So if you've had this with unreliable vehicle repair shops, come on over to Eurofix. Eurofix turns unreliable into reliable. And Eurofix has your vehicle ready when it's really ready, so you don't have to stand around waiting all freaking day. And Eurofix repairs all European cars with quality that beats the dealer and without the dealer pricing. That's because dealer repair shops are designed to pay virtually all of the dealership's overhead. And that's a lot of money. Moolah, by the way. Why would you want to pay for that? Well, at Eurofix, reliable also means a 3-year nationwide warranty plus a free loaner car with every repair appointment. So make sure you call ahead, as loaner cars are very, very popular. So if you're tired of the unreliable repair shops, come on over to Reliable, and that'll be Eurofix. Family owned for 24 years. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX, or you can just visit them online at myeurofix.com. That's myeurofix.com. Blow some blades at you.
Good afternoon. It is 1:59. I'm Joseph Bonanno from the 104.5 The Zone studios. The NCAA and its power conferences have agreed to allow schools to directly pay players for the first time in the 100-plus year history of college sports. The NCAA and its leagues are moving forward with a multi-billion-dollar agreement to settle 3 pending federal antitrust cases, and the NCAA will pay more than $2.7 billion in damages over 10 years to past and current athletes. And the parties have also agreed to revenue sharing plan, allowing each school to share up to roughly $20 million per year with its athletes. Over in college baseball, the SEC tournament continues today at the Hoover Met down in Hoover, Alabama. It's Kentucky and South Carolina kicking off the day at 3 o'clock with the winner facing LSU on Saturday. And then the Tennessee Volunteers will host Mississippi State tonight at approximately 7:30 with the winner heading to face Vanderbilt on Saturday. Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals is tonight between the Mavs and the Timberwolves. Dallas took a game 1 lead as Minnesota looks to even the series. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Welcome back for hour number 2. That's Blaine Bishop. I am Brad Hopkins. We are brought to you by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. We just finished up Call Your Shot, but you know what? We have some carryovers for that because we have another candidate that maybe wants to win 2 tickets to see Def Leppard and Journey at Nissan Stadium on July the 20th. 737-1045 is how you can actually join the show, even if you don't want to call your shot. But let's go to Royce real quick in Mount Juliet. He's got a shot to call. What's up with Mount Juliet calling all the shots today? Anyway, welcome in, Royce. You on with Brad and Blaine? What's going on?
Not much, guys. So my shot would be that the Titans will win at least 10 games this year and finish in the top half of the league in offensive production. I believe they'll surprise some people with that line play and the wide receivers working with Will Levis. I think they're a little bit better than what people are giving them credit for.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm digging it too. I like that. That's a good shot there, Royce. And Mac, we'll during the next break, we'll kind of go around the room and see who we want to give those 2 tickets to see Def Leppard and Journey.
Oh.
Yeah. What, do you want to say something, JB?
Do you want to decide now, or do you want to wait till the end of the segment?
Should we do that on the air, or should we just deliberate?
We can. So you got Nashville SC or Titans offense?
You know what? Let's go more recent. Not that Royce's wasn't pretty cool, because I do think that that's something to unpack. 10 wins, at least in the upper half of the AFC. I think that's a low bar, for given the fact that there are so many dudes, especially with a receiving core that we're talking about, might be the best that we've assembled since this franchise has taken on the dark blue. But Nashville SC getting it done. Maybe with after having a monumental situation like moving on from their head coach, and somehow they're remaining competitive. They're playing for something. So let's give Buffalo the 2 tickets. What do you guys think?
I'm cool.
I'm cool with that. All right, Buffalo. I'll come to you in a second.
Yeah, hang on there. But either way, we're just talking about this, kind of wrapping up what Roy said, the 10 wins. When you're talking about this arguably being the best situation that the Titans have seen at receiver collectively, with DeAndre Hopkins, who put on a performance for us last year that was really good, Calvin Ridley as an alpha, and you talked about his speed, Blaine, or you continue to talk about his speed. And, of course, Tyler Boyd, a guy that is most familiar with the way that Brian Callahan sees offenses, kind of instructing young players like Will Levis, getting on the same page. I would expect 10 wins from that group, even if it's not necessarily led in the same fashion that we've traditionally seen it here with a featured running back. I think that this team, through its evolution, through differences in philosophy or even culture, might end up seeing a late round draft pick.
You just made me think about, as an offensive lineman, what do you like? You like running the ball, or you like, you've been in both offenses, by the way.
1,000%.
You like running the ball?
Pass blocking is hard. It's hard to keep a grown man that lifts weights for a living from getting from one spot to the other. It's hard to do that. I do, and that's my counter to it. But it doesn't make the job any easier. Now, run blocking, I dictate the tempo when we're run blocking, because I get to be aggressive. I get to be, by my name's standard, an offensive lineman. Because when you're pass blocking, you are defensive because you're defending the pocket. And these guys are running at you full speed, trying to slap you upside the head and get around you. But when I'm run blocking, it now allows me to be physical. It allows me to get my hands on you.
How does it allow you to do what?
Physical. Just like that. And you got to say it like that. If you can't say it like that, then don't say it. Anyway, hold on.
One more little trait to offensive linemen. I don't know if you can even explain it. Like, for me, it was like tackling and how you hit somebody and then you had a certain way. You don't even know how to explain it where you make them go backward. When you are shuffling, then all of a sudden a 300-pound man is coming at you just like you just said. How do you know when to anchor?
You mean the guy's bull rushing you?
Yeah, and you go boom because Dillard could not figure it out.
Well, the difference was he let too much space get between he and the guy that was starting to bull rush.
So, no. Explain the space.
Okay.
Like you
so
gotta
what I'm
have
talking about is this. If you are fast enough to close the distance between you and a guy that you know is going to try and run you over, then he has less space to deal with on impact. In other words, the impact will not be as great. If I'm standing at 5 yards waiting for this dude and he's built to 5 yards worth of speed, he is going to crush me. If I narrow that distance to maybe 2 yards, now he doesn't have near the explosiveness because he hasn't had the build up to that point. So what I would do to negate that was I would get into you quick. If I knew you were a guy that could physically overpower me, I'm going to use what asset I have, which is my athletic ability, to get into you and shorten the distance before I let you ramp up to 5 yards and come downhill and hit me in the face. That's just not going to happen. So what happens is you've got to have good footwork, good technique, right? Keeping your shoulders square and all this. You guys didn't expect to get an offensive line tutelage, whatever. But the point I'm trying to make is for guys that were having a problem with it, the problem was you have to look at the gauge, the down and distance between you and the defender. If your defender is way outside of you, then what you don't do is give him even more space by dropping straight back. You've got to step out to him to reduce a little bit of that space that he's using to build up for the imminent contact.
You have to be aware of the inside set, though, right? When you do
the
that.
inside set, it also depends what we're running. If I know that I'm by myself and I'm not protected on the inside, then I have to play him level versus me knowing that my guard is watching my inside, and I'm going to make him go in there and make him eat a fistful of Zach Pillar or Bruce Matthews. And he already knows that. He knows by my set what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make him go inside because I know where I have help. Now, if I'm out there on an island by myself, then I have to play him right down the middle because I don't want to give away any sort of advantage on the inside or the outside.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We want your expertise. No, I want you talked about that heavy guy. Who gave you problems? Because every player in this league, myself included, in one-on-one matchups, didn't have to be a Hall of Fame player, but certain players just you like, ooh, he always gives me, in your mind, gives me a little bit of issue. It doesn't even have to be a great, it could be a role player. Sometimes it's just a dude that you like, dang, man, this guy is really good.
Do you remember Jaquay Parker?
See, exactly. Like,
do you remember him?
Oh, with the Eagles?
He did play with the Eagles, but he played with us first.
Right, he did.
Oh, man. Was he there with you in Philadelphia?
No.
Jaquay Thomas?
No.
He was Jaquay Thomas and then when Parker.
But I remember he came into his own with
the
them.
The thing is, that dude, he had baby legs with a grown man torso. You know what I'm saying?
So he had skinny legs?
Small legs, but he could bench press a house. So, which meant that he could play with leverage because he was shorter than most, but he came with the explosiveness. He could, it was hard to block from that capacity because he's going to end up trying to go through you rather than around you. Oh. Those guys are always hard to block. The guys that are most physical are always the hardest to block. Somebody said on the F&M chat, bank chat, Trippin' Titan said that explains a lot more of the issue that Dillard had with his hands. Mm-hmm. And the other problem is, if I can just further explain it, you tend to, as a young player, get your hands extended because you cannot wait to get your hands on them because that's when the play starts, right? Well, that's what defenders want you to do. They want you to give you the hands so that way I can either knock them down, pin them in my armpit, or do whatever I can to then take them away from you as an asset. So the patient veterans don't give you their hands. They wait patiently and wait for you to try and initiate the contact because eventually, guess what? The longer you take to get to me is the longer it took for you to get to the quarterback, and that plays to my hand. You see what I'm saying? So as I got older, I started to realize, don't shoot your hands. Just sit here and wait with him. And then as he gets closer to you, it's almost like, remember Braveheart? when this was it the Scottish? Okay, whoever they were fighting, were coming down were coming at him, and he kept saying, "Hold,
Yeah.
hold."
Oh,
That's what you
look at
gotta do. Hold, and all of a sudden you just drop him, and then bam, you put him on him.
Oh,
See, that's different.
The secret.
That's not a secret.
Well, yeah.
That's what Bill's teaching them over there right now. Right. Bill's saying, "Be patient, you old. Be like an old dog."
And you say it like it's easy, but it really is hard to be patient because you really want to get your hands on them.
Exactly.
So
sometimes you're anxious.
Yes.
Sometimes you have anxiety. Oh my God, I gotta get my hands on this dude. You know what I mean? And that's the way young people that haven't seen that type of situation, that aren't familiar with it, having seen this situation over and over and over again. That's why you can't beat experience. That's what Coach Max said to us yesterday. Mm-hmm. He said to us yesterday when he joined us on the show, he said there's nothing that can trump experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because when I was watching J.C. Latham, I saw exactly what you're talking about. Not the anchoring part, more of the attack reaching with the hands because of his long arms. And once he grabbed somebody, it was a wrap. I'm like, dang, there's never going to be like that kind of moment in the NFL. They're going to be coming around that corner. So you couldn't really see how athletic. You never saw him shuffle, stay square, and then bam. I just never saw that. It felt like he was going to the guy most of the time.
That's what young guys do.
And I was like,
that's what young guys do.
He's going to have to change that.
Yeah. Because they can't wait. Yeah, but then what happens is, as you're taking steps up the field and you're just waiting for me to give you your hands, I'm just sitting there looking at you. And you're trying to figure it out. And then eventually you done ran right by the quarterback. Dang it! Missed opportunity. See, I didn't have to touch you. You know what I mean? And that's really the point of it all. Hey, real quick before we go to the break. So I'm at the gym. And I bump into somebody and they say, "Hey, man, you been doing the show with Blaine Bishop?" I was like, "Yeah, we've been rocking our stuff, doing our thing." Mm-hmm. And he was like, "I took a picture of him a long time ago. My wife, Judy, did. And I've had this picture forever. And I would love to get..." Actually, he didn't even say something about getting it signed. I said, "You know what? You bring it into the gym tomorrow and I'll have Blaine sign it."
Oh, so this happened yesterday?
This happened yesterday. Right
what?
Here.
Oh, you've been holding out right there.
Right here.
That was in warm-ups, man.
That was in warm-ups at Adelphia Coliseum.
Ooh, that's when I had some guns.
You did have a little bit of guns.
They were still shooting blanks.
Why were your fingers all taped up already?
Because I had 3 pins put in my finger right here.
Yeah.
Yep, right there.
So anyway,
just
I promised him.
Finger.
Right. I promised him I would get you to sign.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay.
That's
you make her day. Make it out to Judy Rogers.
That.
Yeah, down there.
Will do.
I get that a lot.
All right, Captain.
All right. When we come back, it's John Glennon time because it's time to talk Titans and get his perspective about what's going on over there at 460 Great Circle Road and maybe some other goings-ons in the NFL. That's Blaine Bishop. I am Brad Hopkins, and we are brought to you by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. Don't go anywhere. Blaine and I were just asking each other the question, is this a hard or easy schedule for the Tennessee Titans in 2024?
Yeah.
That sounds like a perfect way to start our conversation with John Glennon. He's been covering the Tennessee Titans almost since we got here, B. And he joins us now right here on the, I don't know what it is, the Blaine Bishop, Brad Hopkins show, whatever we're calling it right now. Anyway, he's Blaine Bishop. I'm the B&B show. He's B, I'm B, and we're brought to you by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. John, welcome in, buddy. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
We're doing fantastic. So how about that question that we just kind of teased out there a little bit? Is this, in your opinion, John, an easy or a hard schedule for the Tennessee Titans in 2024?
I would lean more towards the latter, and I think there's different ways of looking at the schedule these days. And, more often than not now, I think you have to look at kind of the formula of projected wins for the season once all the personnel have been shifted, because simply looking at what the teams were last year, what their records were from last year, doesn't take into account all the free agency moves, all the draft moves, et cetera, et cetera. So when you get finished with all those moves and then you see sort of a projected win total, that to me is a better way of looking at the schedule. And if you look at it that way, the Titans actually have one of the more difficult schedules. I think, the Sharp Football Analysis does a real good job with that. And I want to say they were probably up in the top 10, maybe 7 or 8 most difficult. And it's a different way of looking at the schedule, but I think it's a more accurate way.
Okay, so I do agree. I do agree that maybe the very beginning of the schedule, because of Caleb Williams and all the fanfare that comes along with that, then I think we've got Aaron Rodgers in the building.
Look at the quarterbacks.
So it's all about those quarterbacks that are going to, Jordan Love, players of that ilk. I mean, I wonder nowadays, is it more about the matchups or is it more about the players that could be ultimately playing against one another, John?
Yeah, I think there's certainly a little bit of both. But, teams, I think especially in the NFL, change so radically from one year to another. I mean, look at the Titans, and look at the difference between, last year's roster and this year's roster already. So if you're looking at the Titans and basing them on your, strength of schedule difficulty, just looking at them, it's not fair to say, okay, we'll look at this last year's roster that only had 6 or 7 wins, and we'll project going forward. And I think that's similar around the league. And I think the facts are that the AFC South, which for so many years was kind of a downcast division and not too many strong teams, is very much a stronger division now. I think you have to factor that into account. That's where the bulk of the Titans games are certainly the most important Titans games we played, especially towards the end of the season.
He is John Glennon. He covers the Titans and the Preds, and for a lot more right here on National Post.
Yes, JG. I guess I want to get your thoughts so far on the draft picks on the first OTAs, your impressions, and new coach, Callahan, head coach.
Yeah, I think there was some good impressions out there. I think, it's been especially interesting to kind of track J.C. Latham's progress as he has gone up against those dreaded 380-pound sleds of Bill Callahan that have been nicknamed Bertha and Olga. Not easy things to move, but when we first saw Latham, in rookie camp, it was a real struggle for him at first to try to get the hang of these. Because, we all know J.C. Latham's strength is clearly not going to be a problem for him. He's a monster of a man and very strong. But to move these sleds effectively, you have to have technique. So clearly, when we saw him first in the rookie minicamp versus what we saw in the OTAs, and he was moving that sled much more effectively, I think that's a pretty good sign that already he's improved his technique and he's got a better way of kind of attacking those sleds. So we've seen some progress in him. I think, overall in the OTAs, I think there was reason for optimism. I'm not going to sit here and say the offense looked like a well-oiled machine, because there were some spots where there were maybe some miscommunications, between quarterback and receiver. But honestly, that's to be expected, right? I mean, it's the early off season. We've got a new head coach and play caller. new quarterbacks coach, new receivers and other personnel out there. So you're going to have some moments from time to time. But I think, I think the pace was a little quicker for the offense. And certainly it was just a very positive sign to see guys like Calvin Ridley and Tyler Boyd out there running at top speed. It seems like we've so often gone into the off season or into the training camp, maybe with some injuries to some of the wide receivers. And at least so far, we're obviously very, very early, but everybody was healthy and at top speed in the OTA session.
Where would you rank, just now that you brought up the receivers, this potential of wide receiver trio of D-Hop, Boyd, and Ridley in Titans history?
I think it's got to. I mean, they haven't played it down together.
Right. That's what potentially.
So we can't say for sure, but boy, potentially, I would say honestly, easily the best. And when you look at some of the numbers we're seeing here, I mean, you could run down some incredible numbers. Almost 1,800 career catches combined with these guys, almost 23,000 receiving yards, and 145 touchdowns. One other number that's good for these guys, 11 1,000-yard seasons for Boyd, Hopkins, and Ridley over the years. So I think certainly they are the best, assuming they live up to their potential. I think some of the other ones you look at as maybe a second best. I mean, you can look back as recently as 2020, where Corey Davis and A.J. Brown both had real good years. But your third guy there, Adam Humphries, I think only ended up playing 7 games and had 23 catches. And then you go back to like 2012, 2013 when you had the threesomes of Wright, Kendall Wright, Nate Washington, Kenny Britt. Certainly nothing to sneeze at. And, of course, 2002 when Derek Mason and Kevin Dyson and Drew Bennett. That may be the second best right there. Now, like Bennett hadn't really gotten into his prime quite yet. Mason, was already over 1,000 yards. But that might be, in terms of talent, for 3 guys anyway, maybe that's the second best.
Oh, no doubt about it. That's what's on my list. But man, really, those numbers in Boyd and D-Hop, boy, that was really strong. All righty, I know they were in shorts and T-shirts and everything else, and everybody looks different, especially the linemen. When you get those pads on, it's no different. These guys are massive human beings. But man, you know what? Who looked different to me, and I think he has had a shot to win in the right guard. That's Dylan Radins. I stood down there the whole entire time, and I felt like this guy looks real good, at least as far as his technique. I don't know if it's Callahan. His body looks strong, lower and upper body. I was just impressed, not only how he looked physically, but also how he looked blocking. Oh, good, Bertha.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and I think they've certainly made the decision, like Mike Vrabel regime did too, to say that Dylan Radins is better off at guard than he is at tackle, so that's going to be his focus. He certainly had some solid moments, over his first couple seasons. I think I think that position is kind of wide open right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, Daniel Brunskill started there most of the last season, but I don't think he's a lock by any stretch. So I think Radins will give him some competition. And I think they really like Charles as well. When they signed him, the words they used, if you're maybe kind of reading between the lines, I really felt like they thought he had starter potential when they talked about him initially. They like his strength and his size. Just the fact that he's been really limited so far in his career due to injuries. Mm-hmm. But to me, he's the kind of guy who can, if he stays healthy, I think he's got a very good shot at winning that job too.
There you have it. JG, John Glennon, who covers the Tennessee Titans for the Nashville Post.
Hey, John, have you been able to this point, understand what the dichotomy is in the wide receiver room? And the reason why I'm asking is because we know that there's a negative connotation that sometimes comes along with the receivers, that they're divas. And let's just say that the football isn't evenly distributed. You know what I'm saying? Let's just say that DeAndre gets 70% and leaves the other 30 between the two, Calvin and Tyler, or it's flip-flopped or whatever. Could this possibly be a situation, especially if this team is going through a low period, where there could be some finger pointing, or are they in harmony? Are they synchronized right now, understanding at least what's at stake for the three of them together?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, I think, because, I mean, to me, I think certainly Boyd will have the least adjustment in terms of, working with other big-name receivers, because certainly he's been doing that the last 3 years. In Cincinnati, he's kind of been the third option the last 3 years with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. But he is still, in Brian Callahan's offense, still put up, obviously, very good numbers. So I don't think that you're looking for any potential adjustment there. And when you look at Calvin Ridley, it wasn't too long ago that he was playing, sort of second fiddle to Julio Jones. So I think, he's fairly used to that as well. To me, I think the biggest adjustment might be DeAndre Hopkins, just because he has, over the years, really ever since his first 2 years in the league, when he was kind of the number two to Andre Johnson, he is, if you go back and look at his teams, he has been by far the guy who has gotten the lion's share of targets and catches and productivity. So there may be some adjustment for DeAndre Hopkins, just because he hasn't played with the level of other guys that have been very talented with him, like he has this year. But I think, in the end, maybe even if DeAndre Hopkins doesn't get quite the same amount of targets, I still think he can actually be more productive on the offense, and that's simply because the other guys are going to attract a good amount of attention as well, and that's going to help DeAndre Hopkins, Instead of, I think his catch percentage, of targets last year was probably like mid-50s, because he was so often, double covered or top cornerback on him regularly. And I think that can actually improve this year. They've got to defenses have to account for Calvin Ridley, for Tyler Boyd, and some of the other threats. So DeAndre Hopkins theoretically should have more room out there, more opportunity for catches and yards after the catch as well. So he may need to adjust and maybe dial down some of the volume that he expects and he's received over the past several years. But, I think it's going to benefit everybody on the team. I think it's a better, more balanced passing attack, and could wind up actually, as I say, maybe being even more productive for DeAndre Hopkins.
So Tony Pollard signs a 3-year deal worth about $21.5 million. Is there any way at any point that we see Tyjae Spears starting in that role, especially when both of those guys kind of play a similar fashion coming out of that backfield?
Yeah, my kind of feeling on the running backs is it doesn't necessarily matter too much who's going to be in that starting role, because both of those guys do, kind of the same amount of things so well, and in some ways they're interchangeable. And the sense that I get anyway is that maybe it's a hot hand situation with those guys, with Spears and with Pollard. If one guy gets off to a particularly good start in the game, he's going to get more carries. If the other, comes in and gets hot in a hurry, well, maybe he gets more carries. So I don't know if starting is quite as big a deal as it was, obviously in the Derrick Henry days. But I know Brian Callahan, he's gone out of his way, the other day at the OTA to talk about how excited he is at the prospect of having these running backs, just because they can do so many things. He wasn't even necessarily asked about that topic, but that just sort of came up. And for an offensive-minded guy like Brian Callahan to say, hey, I can't wait to see what these running backs are going to be able to do, pretty encouraging sign, I would say.
From the Nashville Post, he's John Glennon.
JG, man, long-term impact of the new, what's it called? I'm going to give it called the digital chain gang for the first downs. What are your thoughts on that, man? That was kind of a curveball. I didn't see that one coming.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we've been wanting it for forever, right? And
right, I forgot about it.
Yeah, we've been trying to figure out why it hasn't come about. But, when you see so many advances in the sport, not only football, but, in other sports as well. I mean, you look at soccer, for instance, and now they have the digital technology that can tell immediately the referee is wearing a watch. When that soccer ball goes over the goal line, his watch lights up, and it's a goal. He knows it. And so there's no question, hey, was the entire ball over the line? Was it before the line, et cetera, et cetera? You look at tennis matches too, when guys are serving and there's tiny slivers of space between the line and the court, but those computers automatically get it right every time, and you say, okay, surely football can follow suit. So I'm eager to see how this how this look goes, and I think it's great. I mean, how many times have we all watched games and there's a quarterback sneak and there's 10 guys lying over the ball carrier and you have no idea, where the ball is at that point. And certainly the officials, even as close as they are, it's hard for them to track as well. So hopefully, some type of digital technology will help in that regard.
Well, with John Glennon with the National Post, I guess, John, I don't know if you know the answer, but Ryan Tannehill, where is he at? Is he retired or is he just not signed, or why and where do you think he may go?
It's a very good question. I was certainly surprised he hadn't signed. I mean, I think he's, definitely still a quality quarterback. We saw at times last year that he still has, very good talent, still has a strong arm, still mobile, still could help teams. What it appears to be right now is maybe Tannehill didn't hear what he wanted to from teams. I get the sense Ryan Tannehill, in kind of the words he used at the end of last year, definitely seemed to think he is still a starter in this league. And I can understand his point of view because, even the past year, up until the past year, he was pretty much a guaranteed starter. But you get the sense that maybe he didn't hear what he wanted from teams in terms of them saying, maybe you can battle for number one or you are our number one. I get the sense maybe he is waiting right now and kind of waiting on that big injury in training camp or the off season where a team is all of a sudden desperate, or even maybe, who knows, maybe even it goes towards the regular season and he pulls a Joe Flacco, where there's a big injury and there's a team out there that says, my God, we've got to have a quarterback who knows how to win some games. Our backup guy isn't real experienced. We need someone right now, and all of a sudden Ryan Tannehill gets that phone call. So, I'm sure he's looking for the right spot. You wonder about some places, maybe it's like a Denver, maybe even in New England, despite the drafting of Drake May there. I mean, still, it's certainly a possibility. Or did I get that wrong there? It's Jay Daniels,
right.
Isn't it? That's right. I don't know what I'm talking about, but no, despite the drafting that they did there, maybe there's still a sense that they need a veteran who can come in and maybe take over at some point as well. So maybe those are two teams that could use Ryan Tannehill, but I still think we're going to see him next year. I don't at all get the sense that he is stepped away from the game.
All right, well, lastly, real quick here, what position group do you still think needs to be addressed with, a veteran, mid-level, free agent type players that may be out there or maybe get released at some point in time after, June 1st or something?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at what the Titans have done in the offseason, they have filled so many of those deficiencies. When they went into the offseason, there were major questions. Wide receiver, okay, not any more major questions there. Cornerback, the big trade for Snead. You get Uzier in free agency. Left tackle. Who's going to play left tackle? Well, you certainly think now that you've got Latham playing left tackle. To me, the only one that screams right now that needs a starter caliber player is at safety. Certainly Amani Hooker is got one of those spots locked down, and he's a good one. But I don't think, right now, I guess tentatively you would say Elijah Molden is the other safety. And while I like, Molden's versatility as a defensive back and the fact that he can help out at various spots, whether it's safety, whether it's nickel, I'm not sure is exactly what the Titans want in a starting role. And there are so many good safeties out there still on the market. I think we're still going to see some more activity at that position. Obviously, the top of the food chain, I think, is Justin Simmons, and there's been some smoke about the Titans and Justin Simmons from time to time. And boy, what an addition he would make if the Titans could get him.
There you have it, JG, the Nashville Post.
Absolutely, John. You've been fantastic, man. Thank you for the update. We appreciate it.
Sure, appreciate you guys having me.
All right, that is John Glennon, just like Blaine just mentioned. Hey, when we come back, we've got a few things to wrap up. Obviously, the Vanderbilt Commodores are set to defend their turf as either the Mississippi State Bulldogs or the Tennessee Volunteers advance after today's action to play them tomorrow for another divisional round down in SEC, the Hoover tournament down there in Hoover. So it's going to be fun to watch. Of course, we're talking about NBA. We've got some conference finals that are not wrapping up, but at least getting heated. You know, some of them are starting to be a little bit of runaways, and some of them are getting more compelling as the days go by. That's Blaine Bishop. I'm Brad Hopkins. We'll be back to wrap up the show right here on 104.5 The Zone.
Tennessee, are you ready to embrace spring with confidence? Well, check out Cool Ray today and let's make this season a breeze. Get $1,500 off select whole home generators and ensure your family's comfort and safety. And we'll also pay you to upgrade. Get $1,000 when you upgrade your HVAC system with Cool Ray. Or you can just try a $49 tune-up and refresh for your system and beat allergy season with 10% off indoor air quality products. So let the experts at Cool Ray clear your drain for $93 or you won't be charged. And in honor of National Military Appreciation Month, Cool Ray will be offering an additional 5% discount for all active military members and veterans, making it a total of 10% off during the entire month of May. So you're our partners, and we're your partners, no matter the season. So here's to spring filled with sunshine, smiles, and stress-free living. Cool Ray, keeping Tennessee cool, plumbing right, and lights bright.
So many people trust Two Rivers Ford. Football players, working moms, business owners. Why? Because Two Rivers Ford has been doing business with integrity for decades. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
The Vols take on the Bulldogs starting at 6:30 on the SEC Network or wherever you're going to consume the SEC tournament down there in Hoover. And the winner advances to play the Commodores on Saturday. Baseball action is heating up, not only in the tournament, but getting themselves positioned to chase a chip. That's going to be fun to watch. Tonight at 7:30, the Mavericks take on the Timberwolves, Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals. The Western Conference Finals. We'll see exactly what happens in that matchup. It looks like maybe the Boston Celtics are doing what people thought they were going to do. Kind of run away with this thing. Yesterday's win was way more convincing than the overtime situation that we saw the first time when the Pacers stepped on the floor. And maybe a 7-game series in the semis does that, makes your legs a little weak, and maybe we're seeing a sample of that in the Western Conference Finals as well, because Ant-Man didn't look like the guy that called out Kyrie Irving and then get it run up on you like that. So either way, a lot to talk about.
A little bit on that, though. Halliburton, they were hanging around a little bit. They were in striking distance for the way the Pacers play. I mean, like 7 points, 9 points. It was always like that. Then Halliburton gets injured in the third quarter, Pacers Celtics, and then it kind of crumbled after that. So I'm interested to see how the Pacers come back and who plays point, because I think he's out. They said it's a hammy deal.
Right.
So I don't know if it's the O'Connell kid may play point or who will be running that offense, because Halliburton is their, I would say, superstar with Siakam.
Yeah,
and
didn't Siakam
played
go
really
out?
well.
Didn't he leave early in the third quarter?
Yes, that's what I said.
Yeah, so both of them left. So
Siakam,
No, who left?
I think both Halliburton and Siakam left in the third quarter. I think I just saw that. He had 28 points in the third quarter, and I'm pretty sure he left early and didn't return.
Well, we know that Tyrese Halliburton is not going to pull a hamstring shooting a jump shot. We know that much. Because he don't get off the ground much.
But the talk, though, is Jaylen Brown having 40.
Yeah.
And he didn't make any of the first team, second team, or third team All-NBA. They asked him that immediately after. Were you motivated? He said, next question.
They just said that's an admitted answer right there.
I don't know.
But I'm going to tell you what, one thing I am going to be watching seriously, and I don't know how much baseball you consume on a regular basis, but when you see two teams of local interest, particularly the Commodores, and seeing how they've kind of figured some things out, as of lately, the last 4 ball games, bats have been hot, there's been depth in the bullpen, they've been doing it, right? And the Vols, who, like you were talking about earlier, maybe JB was talking about, pitched the bullpen, that positioned themselves maybe to keep some arms safe or at least figure out what they've got in the lineup, and maybe where they should make some adjustments, because the ultimate goal is to what? To get back to Omaha and win a championship. But we're going to see these two teams matched up again because I think the Mississippi State does go down to UT today, and they advance to play the Commodores, who are waiting for Saturday's matchup. So these two teams have been tied, because remember, it was tied in some form or fashion, especially lining up for the SEC tournament or even winning an SEC title in the regular season, when they didn't get swept by Kentucky, when they put up all those points and played unbelievable in that third game to then basically make Kentucky share the SEC title with the Vols.
So who's the starting pitcher, Bananas?
Tonight it'll be Drew Beam, who's the typical Saturday. Who's the typical second rotation guy. QB1, if you guys remember, he was quarterback at Blackman High School down in Murfreesboro, and has had a lot of success in his 3 years at Tennessee. It's been a bit of a down year for him in terms of production, but he's still a high-level starter in the SEC, and he's got a lot of experience. So hopefully that coupled with hopefully the offense wakes up a little bit more.
Yeah, it looks like it's starting
today. It's starting to. It looked like it did against Texas A&M. So hopefully that wakes up a little bit more.
Tears, what's his name?
Kavaris Tears, the right fielder.
He's 6 in a hole, man. He had a heck of a day.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you what Corbs doesn't lose. Corbs has a fence around the Nashville metro area. You talking about some really talented players. They don't get out of Nashville.
We just talked about they at Tennessee, but they at Tennessee.
I'm talking about Corbs and him basically keeping.
But they got out.
I love hearing
Blackman got out.
I love hearing about the kids that are from Hendersonville, that are from Goodlettsville, the kids that are from around the area.
Where's
that are playing
AJ
for
Russell
that program. Where's he from, Blaine?
Franklin.
Okay, so
hi.
We're still talking about talented players that go to play for Coach Corbin. Sometimes it happens. I dig it. It's not like you can keep them all. And it's not like the Vols don't have a program that Tony Patello is creating up there that make you want to go there. But I'm just saying, for the most part, man, there's a reason why he keeps that talent close.
Now, an interesting thing to watch out for the rest of this weekend is right now in D1 baseball, which is probably the number one publication for like rankings and stuff for college baseball. They have Kentucky as the number 1 overall seed, and they have Tennessee as the number 2 overall seed for the NCAA tournament. What? Now, some publications have Tennessee as the 1 and Kentucky as the 2. So this is going to be a very important weekend in terms of what happens tonight. And because if Tennessee ends up winning tonight and getting to the championship, I could see them getting the number 1 overall seed. And if Kentucky wins and they're the one that ends up on Saturday or Sunday and Tennessee isn't, I could see them sticking there. So, and another note, with the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament, there's a curse there. The number 1, I don't know how many years it is, but it's been a while since the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament in baseball has won the national championship. Tennessee was it in 2022. We all know what happened in that super regional.
Dang. You just had to remind me.
So does Tennessee
lose, Tennessee?
Yeah, does Tennessee want the number 1 overall seed, or should we like pass it to Kentucky and be like, you know what, Kentucky, you handle that curse. We'll stay here. We'll face whatever 15 seed that we can face, and you know we'll
that
have a good matchup.
First.
So
Go ahead and run through their Blazer Trail.
Yeah.
We'll see you on the other side. That's actually good strategy.
Yeah.
Play a lesser team and then you just get your way in.
And baseball players are very superstitious, so I would not doubt if a lot of people are thinking that, at least in fan base in the fan bases. So
yeah, there's something to be said about getting on a roll, and it seems like the Commodores are doing just that.
They are.
But then again, maybe a tough matchup against the Commodores, who have admitted momentum going right now, would maybe even give the Tennessee Vols the necessary win if they were to win it to get themselves ready.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? We've been trying a new exit, and it ain't working.
We're not feeling it.
It just ain't working.
We just not feeling it.
So you know what we got to do? We got to go back to the old school.
Yeah.
Got to go back to where this thing started.
Yeah. So in the meantime,
and in between time,
peace.